We'll get started in just a moment when President Melendez gets here.
He's not here. Let's see there. Harris. Okay. Ooh, it's cold.
Okay, we are going to call the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee to order. I will ask the Deputy Clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber,
Here.
Councilmember Martin, Councilmember Monroe,
Here.
Vice President Harris,
Here.
President Melendez.
Here. And let the record show we're also joined by Councilmember Lightfoot. Councilmember Monroe, I'm sorry you're so alone on that side of the room. But thanks everyone for being here. We'll start, actually first let me start by wishing the Deputy Mayor a happy birthday. Happy birthday. It's a fitting...
I'm happy to acknowledge my 29th birthday, or more accurately, the 19th anniversary of my 29th birthday. So thank you for that.
Very nice. It is fitting on your birthday. We're going to be doing a small overview of OpenGov, which I believe was one of the first things that you tackled when you got here as the budget director, right? Do I have that right?
And I think we'll hear that it is a gift that, in fact, keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And serving the city very well. But I won't
right.
steal anyone's thunder.
That's right. So happy birthday to you and to OpenGov's time with our city. We're doing this presentation both for council members to get the kind of annual refresh of how to use OpenGov, and also for community members. I'm actually not sure, how does it work when we do on YouTube? Can they see the screen well? Yeah? Great. As you can tell, I don't watch our YouTube page as often as I probably should. But that's great. And then we can share this, Jen and Aiden and the team will make sure we share this through our site. But the goal here is to make sure, the whole point of OpenGov is to make sure that our budget, not just process, but the real live budget book is accessible and transparent for people. I think it's been a huge boon to everyone. So with that, I'll turn it over to the budget director, Suzanne Warren, to talk about OpenGov.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This presentation should take 5 to 10 minutes. Just giving you a refresher on OpenGov. I can't give you too much information on the upcoming budget. There will be a couple changes as we move into OpenGov for 25-26. We were a little disappointed this past year in the preparation because the tables all linked to one giant table that you had to drill down into. This upcoming budget is going to be much better. So just give you a brief overview of how to get there and for the public. So if you navigate to the city's budget website, it's cityofrochester.gov/budget. you can select budget documents in the menu across the screen there. It will take you to the list of all the budget documents. It'll show you the
Sorry, Suzanne, one second. Will, Councilor Lightfoot, what were you? What's that?
Is it just for us to see, or do you want everybody to see?
I'm open to the screen being in its optimal location. What do you think works best? Sure. Great. Sorry. Go ahead, Suzanne. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. It will navigate you to the page where all of our budget documents are, the most recent being the online budget book for 24-25 and a PDF download. The PDF download is searchable. It's just not as intuitive as the online budget book. When you select the online budget book, it'll bring you to the overall front page. You can access each of the individual chapters here. If you're looking to just look at the city council budget, you can drill down to that page. For the new year, we're really happy about this. You're going to see these tables in the budget. When you drill down, I don't know if you can see it, but under the appropriation by major object, you'll see for more detail, explore the budget data here. And when you link on that, you'll be able to pull up the individual information for that bureau or sub-bureau within a budget. This past year, I think I said it didn't really work as well, so we're really excited that this year it's going to be much better. And then you'll be able to link into the actual individual detail by object code, like office supplies or overtime, wearing apparel. You'll be able to see the actuals that are coming right from Munis as to the actuals, our third quarter estimate, our amended budget through April, and then what will be the proposed budget for 25-26. And yep, sorry, I was
Just
on the slide.
can you just go back? Oh, you don't need to go back. That's fine. So, the
All right.
the actuals are pulled right from Munis.
Yes.
The estimated 23-24. Where does that pull from?
So the Office of Management and Budget does a third quarter report every year, and this is where we estimate each individual expense line will end up by June 30th so that we can compare it to what the actual budget or the amended budget is.
Got it. So actual the year before is directly from what money has actually been spent or come in. Estimated is regardless of when it is throughout the course of the year, it's OMB's kind of progress report.
Yes. Yeah.
And then amended and approved are what they are.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
So, let's see. I just wanted to give you some highlights of the benefits that we've seen. So it's definitely cut down on paper from printing the budget document and even just from our budget prep overall. It's more accessible. It can be translated into different languages if you wish. It's more efficient for departments to submit their budget to us as well as to produce the actual document. If you could have seen the number of Excel spreadsheets and Word documents that we used to have to pull together, this is so much better for us. There's less room for error. Everything is linked together. So in the past, we used to have to make sure that, you know, did you change that chargeback in DES to match what the chargeback is coming out of IT? This is all linked, so we don't have that anymore. And we're looking forward to more opportunities for transparency in the future.
Great. Does anyone on council have any particular questions about OpenGov? Councilor Vice President?
I just want to get some clarity. So you said that the tables are connected to Munis, and does that mean Munis real time?
I think it links, it updates every night.
Okay.
So it's an integration that's between the software, and so that updates every night. But at this point, the actuals are coming right out of Munis. Because the year ended,
Okay.
nothing would change.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilmember Monroe.
In the transmittal for continuing this agreement with OpenGov, it's mentioned that getting historical data in is something that you're doing.
Yes.
Is that a manual process?
Nope, it'll do something similar to what we're looking at here. We're looking at pulling in, and this is what I mentioned, more opportunities for transparency, being able to give some historical details. So if somebody wanted to look at the Communications Bureau, they could see what the expenses were 4 years ago, and all the way up to today. We're building those. At the moment, we're kind of delayed based on working on the new budget.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? President Melendez?
Yes, thank you. So also on the transmittal, and it's very nominal, but it goes up every year in terms of the agreement. Is that just standard nominal fee that you're anticipating?
Yes, just
Okay.
inflationary increases.
All right, thank you.
And I also wanted to mention that if any council member wants a deeper individualized session, I'm happy to sit down with them to give them a guided tour through OpenGov. So,
Thank you. Any further questions? I mean, certainly if there are questions on the contract that we're being asked to support, we can talk about those when we're taking a vote itself. But this was very helpful. The only thing I would just add, especially since our communications director is back there, Barbara, I would love to recommend doing some type of short videos around our budget when it's passed and OpenGov gets rid of some of the clunkiness that Suzanne was talking about. I do think I don't know if you have any sense, Barbara, if you won't know off the top of your head, but if we know how often people click on the budget when they're looking at the city website. But I would imagine there's a lot of people who have questions and want to know some things, and we have the tools. I don't know that we've always shared with people exactly how to use them.
We've done some of that, especially when we first got going. The interest in the budget usually peaks right at budget when we come out with the budget.
Yep.
But we can talk about ways. We've done this in the past when the deputy mayor was budget director. He did videos, so we can do the same.
Yeah.
Forward. And actually, you've done some videos too, Suzanne, in the past. So we.
right. And we'll need to update those because the functionality has changed just a little bit since it was originally implemented. So
Yeah, all the
Be
more
happy to
reason.
do
And,
that.
and I would not recommend doing it until we have an approved budget for next year, but I think sometime this summer that'd be a nice thing to do. Okay, if no further questions, we'll move on with the legislative business. So we're going to start with introduction number 120, which is approving the commitment of reserve funds. I'll ask the budget director to just walk us through this a little bit with some clarity as well.
I turned the microphone off. Sorry. I can't talk loud enough for. I probably don't need it, but this is our final cleanup where we take what was left at year end from 23-24 and we move it from the less restricted category that the finance director assigned money to for retirement costs and property tax relief, and gets council approval to move it up to the committed bucket of fund balance, which is the more restricted bucket of funds. So I do have to say, and we had this conversation, these are much smaller amounts that we have sitting in retirement costs and property tax relief that we're moving up into the committed category than we've had in the past couple years. But if you'll notice, the open POs and contracts have grown to approximately $27.8 million. A lot of that money sitting in that open PO and contract account are ARPA encumbrances, contracts, and some other smaller purchases that are being made. So at the end of the fiscal year, when those were all encumbered but not spent, they had to carry forward. So they end up taking away from some of the other buckets. That's normal it's a normal process that happens when you're closing out the year. Our normal encumbrances pre-ARPA was about $8 to $9 million. It's now jumped up to this large amount. The bonus here is that there is revenue to offset these. So if you were to look at the 24-25 budget, you'll notice we have revenue budgeted to offset these part of these encumbrances.
Got it. Any questions that folks have about what we're being asked to do here? The dollar amount's a bit smaller. The timing is roughly where it is every year. Sometimes sounds like sometimes it happens in March, sometimes in May, but usually right around now. Any questions from council members? If not, I'll take a motion on 120.
Move it.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 121, authorizing an agreement for budget software. Any questions, comments, or concerns? This is pertaining to OpenGov.
Move it.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 122, a resolution for the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad New York Scenic Byway nomination and corridor management plan adoption. A question from Council Vice President Harris.
Thank you, Chair Gruber. What is the state's timeline for implementation of this byway?
We can get back to you. They have to get all the different resolutions from the different municipalities, so I'm not sure of the exact timeline, but I can follow up with the state.
Thank you.
Is this something that the state is talking about in this current budget, Tammy? Do you know, or is that down the
I
line?
don't think it's in this current budget, no.
Okay. Any questions on 122?
Move it.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And finally, introduction number 123, authorizing an amendatory agreement for labor and employment law services. I'm going to turn this over to the Corporation Council. This has been an introductory. This has been a contract that we've been. It's come back to us several times. Last time we've felt pretty certain it was the last time. It was not the last time. So I'll have to turn it over to the Corporation Council to tell us all the stuff that's happening with this.
Thank you, Chair Gruber. Yes, we felt pretty confident last time that it would be the last time, but here we are again. So I wanted to kind of walk through where we've been, how we got here, and why we're looking to move forward with additional funding. So this all originally started when the PAB employees sought to organize and asked to be recognized, and the organization working with them was Workers United. Ultimately, they filed a petition with the Public Employment Relations Board asking for recognition with Workers United as their organizing agent. AFSCME, which is a current union for the city and our largest union, intervened in that proceeding and also made an application for these at-issue PAB employees to become part of AFSCME's union. The proceeding went through the normal course in PERB. We had an administrative law judge who's very experienced. The judge actually held two separate hearings, one on the community of interest, whether there was a community of interest between these at-issue PAB employees and other folks currently in AFSCME, and one on a question of conflict of interest, whether there was a conflict of interest between these PAB employees and the folks who are already in AFSCME. All of that was so that the PERB, the Public Employment Relations Board, could make a determination as to the most appropriate bargaining unit for these folks to become a part of. So we had 6 days of hearings, 3 days each on each of those two issues. That was followed by a significant briefing from Workers United, from AFSCME, and from the city. That is procedurally the posture we were in the last time I came before you. And what I told you then was, we're basically done. We've done the hearings, we've done the briefing, we're getting this money, we're just waiting for a decision from the judge. And what I anticipated would happen is that once we got the decision from the judge, everybody would just do whatever the judge said we had to do. The judge issued that decision on January 23rd of this year and found that AFSCME was the most appropriate bargaining unit, at which case that was a green light for the workers at the PAB who are looking to unionize to join AFSCME, our largest union. I expect that that's what would happen, and we would all carry on. There's already a contract in place. They wouldn't have to negotiate something new. They'd carry on as AFSCME folks. That is not what happened. What happened was Workers United decided to appeal the decision to the Public Employment Relations Board as a whole. So now the administrative law judge's decision goes to PERB to review. They filed their appeal on March 21st. And so now there's a process where they file their brief, we file our brief, AFSCME files their brief. The board could take additional testimony. I doubt that will happen because we've already got 6 days of testimony. We've got a very thorough factual record. However, I've been wrong before on this litigation, so anything's a possibility. But that's where we are right now. AFSCME itself is in kind of a holding pattern until this gets worked out. So the AFSCME employees have not kind of, taken up spots in the union because there's still an open question with Workers United having filed this appeal. The estimate from Hancock Estabrook is for this amount before you to finish up the appeal. If anyone here today were to ask me, is that going to end the litigation? I will not say yes this time. There's a possibility that an Article 78 could be filed challenging the board's action. I think that is highly unlikely, but I will leave the door of possibility open.
There could be a Article 78 to the appellate, to the ruling on the appeal?
I believe there could be. So Article 78 is the article of the Civil Practice Law and Rules that allows somebody to challenge the decision of a public board or officer. And so PERB would be a public board. If they wanted to continue the appellate work, they could take it to a Supreme Court judge through Article 78.
Got it. So I'll turn it over to council members for questions, but I just want to make sure I follow clearly. So at this point, the administration's stance is that the PAB workers who want to join a union would be the administration's stance is they should join AFSCME. PERB has ruled that that is the most appropriate bargaining unit for them to join. And now the only question is whether Workers United, who's appealing because they want to represent the PAB workers. So the action is between the city of Rochester and the PERB administrative judge's ruling and Workers United.
And AFSCME. AFSCME will be a part of this too. So AFSCME will be on this appeal as well. So AFSCME is also going to spend more money on this appeal. The city's position now is that, yes, there's no error in the judge's ruling. AFSCME is the most appropriate unit, and we should be moving forward with the PAB employees as part of AFSCME.
And if this appeal wasn't moving forward, the workers would be eligible to join AFSCME as soon as January, whatever date this ruling came down.
Correct.
Got it. Questions from council members? Councilmember Monroe, followed by Martin.
Could you remind us how many positions this union would cover?
I will get back to you in writing. I don't know. We've had some people come and go during this process. I'm going to estimate it's somewhere between 8 and 12. It's not everybody in the PAB right now, but I will get back to you in writing with a definitive answer.
Thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
Did you inform anyone on council about the PERB ruling when it happened in January?
I'd have to go back through my email and check. I can get back to you on that.
Okay. And if not, I'd be surprised about, I'd like to learn more about why you didn't. I didn't get an email, and I've talked to some others who also didn't get an email from you regarding this decision. And it is something we've been closely paying attention to as one of the controversies happening within our body. So I'm a bit surprised about why that would not come up to us and it would be addressed now. The other piece I'm interested in is why would you say, essentially, because I think there were a lot of people who voted in support of the funding and they voted under the auspices of this being final. And I'm confused by that. So now nothing is final? Finality means something.
Yeah, I mean, I will honestly tell you that the intention from my office was certainly that whatever the ALJ said, we were going to comply with. So if ALJ said Workers United wins the day, they'd be with Workers United. If ALJ said AFSCME wins the day, they'd be with AFSCME. We had thorough briefing in front of a very experienced administrative law judge who's been with PERB for years and years. After 6 days of hearing, the chances of success on appeal seem very low for either side, right, depending on how the ALJ had come out. So it was not an avenue I expected. So shame on me, I guess. But I certainly anticipated finality, and we don't have that now.
And so what occurs if, though unlikely, Workers United wins the day? Will the administration appeal that decision? Like, what is the plan if that very unlikely scenario happened?
I don't expect that we would appeal that decision. If PERB decides that Workers United is the appropriate bargaining unit, then we'll get down to negotiating a new contract.
Thank you. And if you could, please send us the judge's order
Sure.
to all council.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Now I'll take a motion.
Move it.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. And that concludes the work of the BFG committee. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 16:30, and we are starting the Public Safety Committee. I first want to draw to attention to all of our City Council members that you should have on your desk an administration public safety update for April. I want to say good evening to each and every one of you and hope that you are all well and your families are well too. And at this time, I would ask for the call the Public Safety Committee to order, and I would ask the clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lightfoot.
Present, ma'am.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Lupien. Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Monroe.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson is excused. Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you. We have no presentations for this month. We will go directly into the business of the Public Safety Committee, starting with introductory number 124, appropriating funds and a budget amendment related to the implementation of a 30-day pilot program for drones as first responders. Do we have any questions, comments, and or concerns? Council President Melendez.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Excited to see this as a possibility. If we could, though, from the administration, get a sense of, in the 30-day period, what types of information are we hoping to glean from the pilot?
Chief Smith, can you speak to that?
I can. So it's actually a rather lengthy list. We did submit it. I can just go over the quick topics. We're looking to determine operational effectiveness, in other words, response times and coverage areas. Safety risk and mitigation as far as pilot safety and drone reliability. We're looking to see the impact on officer and public safety. The effectiveness of crime prevention and investigation, effectiveness in search and rescue operations, data and intelligence sharing, so the effectiveness of real-time data sharing, the cost budget considerations, and then feedback and adjustments. So again, we did send them up in writing, and if you have any specifics, I can try and answer them.
Just one more question, Chief. So where would these drones deploy from?
So for the pilot that we started this month, it did start in April. Unfortunately, due to the weather, we really haven't been able to get the drone up in the air much, which is another reason we're looking at doing a pilot program instead of just going, you see many cities that are just buying these programs. And, Rochester has some very specific challenges. So to just try and go all in and throw money at it with a 365-day program really isn't wise at this point. But for the pilot, they are staged on the roof of the East Side office. And their area of operation is, because we are right now line of sight limited, so line of sight for the operators from the East Side office would be the zone of operation.
Sorry, one more question. My apologies. In terms of individuals who are operating, is there a set number of officers that initially start this, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so we do have a number. In order to pilot the drone, it is an FAA course. They have to have an FAA license. Every time the drone goes up, they have to call the airport control tower and notify them each and every time. I don't have the total number of certified pilots. I think we're maybe around 8 total.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
Can you talk about community inputs and the role it played in launching this pilot?
Well, I know we talked about it at my chief's PCIC meeting, and a lot of the community members were excited at the prospect, but in reality, a lot of community folks just aren't aware of the advantages that a drone does provide, especially in an environment such as ours where we have limited police resources.
Have you done any research about potential privacy impacts of this technology?
I would have to get back to you on that. I wouldn't want to answer wrongly. I will find out.
Thank you. That's helpful. And within the pilot, is the plan for it to cover all parts of the city, or is there a specific zip code or?
Yeah, so again, right now, because of FAA regulations, the drone cannot be out of sight of the pilot visual sight. So the pilot is on the roof of the East Side office, which means the area of operation is however far you can see from the roof of the East Side office.
That's helpful. That's it for now.
Councilmember Dr. Gruber.
Thanks. I saw that WXXI did some reporting on this, on what we're about to vote on, and mentioned that Schenectady already has a working program. Have we gone down and had those conversations with Schenectady?
So I've had the vendor that Schenectady went with and again, those vendors, what they do is they like to sell a package that would cover a whole city. So for a package that would cover Rochester, their proposal, I believe, would be 12 pods, which each pod is where a drone would launch from. Staffing aside, their proposal for the equipment comes in at just over $25 million, which is a pretty big ticket item. So that's why we're trying to evaluate with our own equipment to see if it's even feasible. And because again, drone operators have to be, they're still sworn personnel.
Yeah. All due respect to the vendor, I don't actually really care about the conversations with the vendors. They're going to try to sell their stuff. Have you talked to your counterpart, the chief in Schenectady? Have they found the program to be useful and helpful? Do we know kind of how they track whether it works or not?
I have not had that conversation, no.
Okay. I mean, I would hope that, to Councilman Martin's question about engagement, community engagement never hurts, but talking to a police department that's already made this kind of investment, I'd like to know if it's working for them. The vendor is certainly going to tell us it is, but I'd like to see what the chief thinks about it. And I saw in Gino's reporting that Syracuse is about to sign on the dotted line for a contract as well. So maybe there could be some conversations with the chief in Syracuse and Schenectady to see how it's working for them.
Yeah, the main issue that, I mean, we've had our drones for quite some time, the ones that we do have, and I rely on my the special electronics unit, CISU, and you know, their overarching opinion on these big drone packages is that the technology isn't quite there yet. So if you're too early into the market, you're going to spend a lot of money on equipment that's going to have to be quickly updated within 2 years. So actually delaying into the market may be better to give everyone some time to work out the kinks. I have talked at length to the former police commissioner in Buffalo, and they actually went with some tethered drones for their special events, which is a whole different conversation, but we're looking at trying to do that for like Jazz Festival.
What does that mean?
So a tethered drone is basically like a kite. It's on a wire. It is permanently tethered to the operator, so you can put it up stationary above an event to provide aerial surveillance above an event such as Lilac or Jazz Festival. You don't need a pilot's license for it. You don't need any special training. So, for example, my thought is Lieutenant Hill at Lilac Fest could have a tethered drone up above his command post. It would give him an overview of the entire Lilac Festival. But my drone operators with their licenses would be free to do the other operations that they do on a daily basis, you know, searching the gourds for folks in the river, things like that.
Thanks. I have no further questions, but I would love for you to report back at some point of a conversation with the Schenectady chief, understanding how things are working for them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith, then Councilmember Martin, then Councilmember Vice President Harris.
Hi, Chief. So I'm having a hard time trying to understand why we need this level of surveillance, because this level of surveillance in the city normally means more surveillance of Black and brown communities. And so you mentioned that Rochester has some specific challenges, and I know that you named one of them being resources, police resources. So what are some other specific challenges that you believe these drones will solve for?
So it's not a drone surveillance program. It is a drones as first responders program, which means when a 911 call comes in, for example, a call for a large fight, the drone operator would send the drone over the area. Most likely it would get there before the officers who, again, if it's a call for a large fight with weapons, you have to remember you now have multiple officers driving lights and sirens to get there. The drone arrives first, either sees nothing and is able to cancel the officers altogether, or is able to say, here's the fight, here's the folks that are fighting, and I see a gun, this person has the gun. That's the idea behind it, is to send it up on 911 calls, again, ahead of time, in the hopes that it's something that maybe we don't need to send officers to. We can cancel them and we can just move on.
Thank you for that clarity. That certainly helps. Just one follow-up question. So is there a documented policy that states clearly what these drones will be used for?
So our current policy was submitted with the committee questions and answers. It was attached to 124. Obviously, if we went with a drones as first responders program, we would need to rewrite that procedure. For the pilot that we're doing right now, I can tell you there's a supervisor assigned, and the drone only goes up at the supervisor's discretion, and every job that the drone goes up on is documented so command staff can then review afterwards.
Okay, I'm sorry, just one follow-up. So if I heard you correctly, you're saying there is a policy on how to use the drones, but not a policy that states the drones will be specifically used for emergency responses.
Correct, because right now we do not have a drones as first responder program. So our policy covers what we would normally use the drones for. So for example, a person in the gorge or searching for a missing person, we use them successfully quite a few times on missing persons investigations. We use them down in the Genesee River Gorge quite frequently, looking for missing persons. And then, other events at the chief's or my discretion. But as far as the drone going up every day on 911 calls, it doesn't happen except this pilot that we're trying on a limited basis now, which is the funding that we're discussing before us.
Thank you.
Councilman Martin, I'm gonna, because you had a question on this already. Let me get to VP Harris first. Get people their first questions first, and then I'll swing back around for the second, if that's okay with you, please. Council Vice President Harris.
Thank you. I'll make it quick. Just would like to know how much does the FAA license cost?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
I can tell you there are pending changes in the FAA that although the license will still be required, we are hopeful that we would no longer be limited to line of sight. But because of our proximity to the airport, the Southwest, we believe, is pretty much going to remain a no-fly zone due to its proximity for the airport. We're very restricted in the Southwest as it is. We have a maximum ceiling, and there's certain areas that is a no-fly zone for us now and probably will continue to be in the future.
So it'd be all of Southwest, just to be clear, pretty much?
I can get you the specific borders.
Okay.
It's a radius from the airport property. So
Thank you. That would make sense. And then I'll yield.
So, Council Vice President, there won't be any drones flying over our homes. we live in proximity of each other, right next to the airport. So, Councilmember Monroe.
Chief, you were mentioning that the department already uses drones. What are they used for, the current ones?
So again, we use them. We've had great success using them for missing persons. We've had great success using them in the Genesee River Gorge, where it's inaccessible by boats and people on foot. Again, looking for missing persons. We do use them occasionally on high-risk SWAT operations, just to have something up above. But those are, again, specifically authorized by me on a case-by-case basis. That's not an automatic that if there's a high-risk search warrant, the drone goes out.
So with this, when 911 places, when they transfer that call and emergency responders are going, if the drone is there first, how is the drone operator's information going to get to perhaps multiple police agencies or police and fire?
Well, the drone operator is on the same radio channel, police radio channel, as the section that they're in. So if they hear a job dispatched to, say, a Clinton car for a large fight, the supervisor makes the determination to then send the drone up. Once the drone is on scene, then the drone operator would advise over the police radio to the Clinton units responding whatever they see or don't see.
Thank you.
Anyone with another first? Okay, Councilman Martin, final question for you.
So in your mentioning on how drones are used, you didn't mention the use of drones during protest. Is that no longer an RPD policy?
Chief's discretion on that. So no, we don't use them all the time on demonstrations or protests. Depends on the circumstances, the size, the location. We base everything on intelligence that we have ahead of time. Again, all of our plans are based on intelligence for possible violence or disruption, and that's what we design our plans on.
I think the issue, and kind of relating back to Councilmember Smith's point, is the opportunity for them to be used in ways that are harmful or targeting specific communities. And just with discretion, I think there's room for how they're used, how people are surveilled, to be applied in equitable ways. Could you say more about, like, why don't we have a policy that includes a bright line rule of this is when we use them, this is when we don't use them? Why? Yeah, could you say more about that?
Well, we do. It was submitted in the questions and answers, but there are some items that are chief's discretion. There are always some things that are chief's discretion. And, you know, I can say from when we used them in the protests before, if we had not had the drones, we would not have had footage of folks who committed crimes during those protests, and we would not have had the successful prosecutions that we had for folks that were disruptive during those protests and damaged property and hurt others. Those arrests were all based on drone footage.
So I'm just struggling to understand, like, there's so many elements that are that just don't principally feel right. It's like the arguments you're making about using drones, but the policies have a lot of discretions. I wonder, like, what the impact would be. Can you tell me about how you plan on collecting data around the impact? What metrics you're specifically hoping to collect that would be shared with the community and council?
We did. I already submitted it in writing. It should be in front of you, council member. And at the beginning, I went over them with the president. Just I hit the highlights because I couldn't read all the details.
Thank you. I don't see it, but I will look for it, and if I don't find it, I'll follow up. The final question I have surrounds community involvement. You mentioned it's been discussed in PCIC. Do you have a plan to talk to the larger community about the results after 30 days?
We do. Once the pilot program is done, then we have the results. If we think we're going to move forward, then the community engagement would be the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Council President Melendez and then Councilmember Smith.
Yes, thank you. Two quick requests as follow-ups. Should the council pass this, when would the start date be? And you can put this in writing. When would the start date be? And then if you could also reach out to other vendors in other cities related to policies that they have in place, particularly organizations that or cities that have had drones as first responders in place for some time. It would be helpful to Councilmember Martin's point to understand the scope, the limitations, where other cities are drawing the line with this. Because I think it would be important for us to kind of see what the best practice is right now in implementation and determine where we may want to go as a city. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Captain Radins, who was filling in for Captain Sweatman with the PAB, is now the captain in charge of special projects, and that is exactly with everything I have tasked him with.
Councilmember Smith.
Actually, my question is for you, Chair Lightfoot.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I do like the thought of the first responders and getting there on time, but my concern is that there is no policy that clearly states that. And so I'm wondering how you feel about holding this in committee until we can get policy language that is relevant and specific to the drone pilot project.
Right. Thank you for the question. I would like to first do a little more information around regards of the timeline for funding, or how does this impact the overall process is what I would like to know, Chief.
Well, so the pilot started April 1st. We are up and running it. What we're looking for is money to reimburse the overtime from forfeiture funds.
Right. So basically, this is back owed money.
Correct.
You're right. So with that being said, I would want to move forward in that regard, with the intent knowing that this information is for policy. What is your what is your timeline in regards to policies that are being referenced here today, Chief?
Well, I don't have a specific timeline. Again, it would depend on the results. I mean, we could very well, after this pilot, decide that we're not going to move any further with it, especially depending on what the cost in the future could be. If we decide we are going to move forward with it, again, all the things that the council president spoke have to be addressed. We have to reach out nationwide for best practices and policies. Those have to be evaluated and put in place. We have to do community input. And then, then you're talking to vendors, you're talking about buying equipment, you're talking about infrastructure. So certainly nothing in the short term.
Yeah, so to your question, Councilmember Smith, I think we move along with, of course, you don't have to vote in favor, of course, but as far as you ask my opinion, that I would move along with this. I'm in favor of it as a pilot, and then that after the information and the data comes back, the information, now we'll have a more clear view of what we're actually looking at, what the community sessions would look like, what the data is telling us, and then we as a council, we can kind of give input and information as to the direction, or if we feel this went in the right way or wrong way based on the data. And then at that point, we can even help to shape through the rest of the process what those policies could potentially look like. Because I think we can make a more informed decision, because now we have some data to help us, to guide us in that decision. But in the interim, I think we need to get people paid that from a process that's already moving, and I'm interested to see what this data is going to look like, because I know that drones, as was said before, when used properly, and I know that's the concern here of them being used properly, when used properly, can be very helpful in public safety. And so I would continue to move forward with this item. And at this time, go ahead. Yes, sir.
I can certainly make the results of the pilot program available to council.
That would be great. As a matter of fact, I would like a work session so we can actually have a little more time than a few minutes, or, I think that would be respected by the rest of my colleagues as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Move it.
Second.
It's been moved and second. I ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gruber? Yes. Councilmember Lightfoot?
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien's not here. Councilmember Martin?
No.
Councilmember Monroe?
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson's excused. Councilmember Smith?
No.
Vice President Harris?
Yes.
President Melendez?
Yes.
Just verify for me, please. We do have a couple missing people, and we had a couple no votes. Just verify. Do we have? Thank you. Motion passes. Introductory number 125, authorizing an agreement for the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for year 2022 Explosive Detection K-9 Initiative Grant. Any questions, comments, and/or concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion. It's been moved.
Second.
It's been second. Now we vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
No. I also had a question.
All right, let's back up for a second here, and let's take questions.
Yes. Do you have any data or information around how many times the K-9 unit is used for explosive detection? Just anything to understand the scope of their work and the outcomes.
I don't have numbers. I can get them for you. I can tell you in general terms, anytime we have a large event, we send them in ahead of time for sweeps. So, for example, every night before the Jazz Festival, the dogs will walk through prior to the festival starting, and then periodically during the festival, things like that. But I'm sure we have numbers. I will get them for you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? I'm going to have a roll call vote on this. Revote, please.
Councilmember Gruber? Yes. Councilmember Lightfoot?
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien is absent. Councilmember Martin?
No.
Councilmember Monroe?
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson is excused. Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Vice President Harris?
Yes.
President Melendez?
Yes.
All right. Introductory passes. Introductory number 126, authorizing agreement for the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for year 2022, targeting technical team program grant. Any questions, comments, and/or concerns? If not, I'll
Move
entertain a
it.
motion. It's been moved.
Second.
It's been second. Now we vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Introductory number 127, authorize an intermunicipal agreement with the Monroe County related to administration and enforcement of New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Codes. Any questions, comments, and or concerns? I do want, Chief, a question concerning building codes. There was a time when there was an appointee from our area that was on the New York State Building Codes Board. Do we have any local people that are on the New York State Building Codes Board from Rochester?
Yes. I don't know if he's been appointed yet, but one of my firefighters, Santos Cruz,
Okay.
has been nominated. We've given him permission,
Yes.
along with the mayor's office,
Okay.
to be a representative on the governor's advisory committee for the New York State building codes.
Yes. I'm very familiar. I used to be one of the representatives
So was
years
I, a
ago. Right.
long time ago.
Right. So, okay. Thank you for that, Chief.
welcome.
Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been second. Now we vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Introductory number 128, authorizing a mandatory agreement related to emergency telephone notification system services. Any questions, comments, and or concerns?
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been second. Now we vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. With no further business to come before the Public Safety Committee, we stand adjourned. Good evening, everyone.